Hi, welcome to another video. If you want to know what's new in 2.2, keep watching. Fairly recently, Roland just released a 2.2 firmware update. There are three main changes as I see it. The first and for me most important one is a really nice easy way to set up that all-important byte control. Then we'll have a look at some of the way the settings need to be just adjusted a little bit, perhaps differently to how you were doing in a previous firmware. And the other new thing is there are some new sounds. Actually, they're not new sounds. They're just a tweak of some of the sounds that were already in there. So let's get into it. The first thing is looking at the way we set up this byte sensitivity. Now, I did a video on this previously, which I think helped people quite a bit. But now there's a really nice, easy way to do this, and I think it's much improved. If you go over in your menu system to where it says byte adjust. Now, as always, you can have this set to auto. If you just want to get playing, set it to auto, and I think it's working really well. But if you want to really tailor this to your own style of playing, before we used to have to do a rather convoluted way of doing this, and now they've made it much easier. Make sure these arrows are either side of either auto or the number that you're on. And you'll need to use the 2-octave up button. Now, this is a really simple process. Play a note with your regular embouchure. Make sure you're nice and comfortable the way you would normally play. As you're playing that note, press that 2-octave up button. Now, that has set my embouchure, if you like, the sort of zero position of my embouchure, the usual place, to 67. Okay, that's what this is registering my byte at. If I do this again and deliberately use a looser embouchure, okay, now let's see what it's set us to. Oh, it's gone down there to 56. So it's registered that I changed my embouchure there. Let's do it again. I'll go back to where I normally want to be. So sustaining a note with my embouchure. And there it is this time. It's set it at 66. Really quick, really easy. Way more responsive now. I think most players that have been reporting that they've upgraded to 2.2 are really happy with the way that's working. Now, just one thing in that setting before we leave it. We used to have some minus numbers as well as some plus numbers, and it got rather confusing. Now it just goes from auto straight from 1 onto 99. It's much more straightforward. So let's look at the other thing I want to show you here, which is there are some changes to the way they've done what they call the pitch control. If I can find it over here. Oops, I think I missed it. Sorry. Now here we are on byte control. Byte control. Now there are three options. There's off, and there's pit 1 and pit 2. Let's have a look at what all of those do. So if it's off, when you're using a different embouchure pressure on the mouthpiece, it's not going to make any difference at all if that's turned off. This can be really useful if people find it difficult to control, or if you've never played a saxophone before, or it might be easier to start off with that turned off. Pit 1. Now this is the one that I use. This gives me a nice blend of pitch bend and also vibrato control. So I can use my embouchure to dip up and down. And if I do that more quickly, I can get my vibrato. So that for me works really well. Now, if you'd rather just have the vibrato without the pitch bend, that's when you need to be on pit 2. Okay, but for me, it's the pit 1 setting that I prefer and I think is more suitable if you're a saxophone player. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is, because we've had these changes of the way the system works, you might have to make some slight adjustments to some sounds that you've saved before. I've been reading some comments on the forums where people are finding it's not so responsive. Believe me, it is more responsive than it used to be. There's just a few tweaks that you'll have to make, and I found it very quick and easy to make these tweaks. So the vibrato sensitivity works in the same way as it did before. I think it goes from 0 to 10. It's this setting, the pitch down. Now, before, I think I was using a setting maybe of 8 or 10 or 12 or something like that, and I found I had to increase that a fair bit. Now, I've been used to about a setting of 32. You can go as far as 64 if you really want to make a big difference to go down. And also the pitch up setting. Now, there's a little bit of controversy over this. Some people would prefer if the instrument made the same amount of pitch up movement as movement down. For me, I don't want that, to be honest. A saxophone allows you to make a pitch down movement much more than a pitch up movement. But quite rightly, some people are saying that certain instruments, maybe like a violin, would use a vibrato that might be sort of equally pitch up and pitch down. You will find at the moment that the pitch up isn't giving you as much movement as the pitch down setting. So you might decide, you might choose that that's not working quite so well for you. I think it's something that they'll address in another firmware to see if they can get that to work equally well going up as coming down. For me, I think the way it works now is just how I want it. But remember, you might have to make changes to those settings to get your amount of control that you want to. Okay, and then finally, the other thing was these new sounds. Now, these are new saxophone sounds that are numbered 56, 57, 58, 59. It goes up to 62. There's some variations on this, and they've done quite a nice job on playing around with the settings to make these different sounds. The best thing to do is go and download from the Roland website where you got the firmware update from. There is a document there that I think is called Tone List. And if you have a look on that, it'll tell you what each of these sounds has done and what the intention was, the style for each of these sound was. So they've done a good job on those to give us some differences in the way those sax sounds are programmed. Personally, I hardly ever play a sax sound on this because I'm a saxophone player and I don't really need it to make a saxophone sound. So I hope you found that very useful. As I say, I think it's a marked improvement now. We're on to 2.2. I've been finding it very reliable and picking it up, turning it on, it's been playing expressively. Again, personally, I've found with my external sounds that also it's been working beautifully for me. So I hope you're finding that you're managing to work it for that as well. I hope you enjoy the update for the Aerophone. I hope you found this video to be useful. Keep watching. I'm intending to up the pace of these videos. Please click a like button and subscribe. That will be very helpful. Thank you. All the best. See you next time.